Number one since 1998 on television, ESPN Radio, and the World Wide Web, this is the Pro Wrestling Report with your hosts, the man they call Meathead, Frank Cosentino, and Damian Nelson. Professional wrestling news, opinion, and information from fans for fans.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Pro Wrestling Report. Primetime, Damian Nelson sitting alongside the man they call Meathead. It is Wednesday, June 17, 2009, and one thing is for sure, this show is not for sale. As WWE Raw was this past Monday night.
Well, apparently nobody ever said it was for sale, but it now has been
All
sold.
for sale. All for sale. No, not my mother. No, not my mother. Name the movie.
Can't do it.
Dr. Detroit. We're going to talk about World Wrestling Entertainment's current state of affairs. We've got the Newsdesk, Beat the Meat, Interactive, lots of emails and correspondence from you, and we got a preview of Slammiversary coming up this Sunday.
We've also got a fantasy draft update
TNA.
as well coming up, I believe.
That we do, but let's start with the question of the week, which is, given all of the news as of late for World Wrestling Entertainment, the real news, not a far sale of Raw, but is WWE bursting at the seams? Is it falling apart? Is the question. And let me give you some reasoning why I asked that question.
I have a one-word answer, but go ahead.
The company's been saddled with a lot of key releases and departures late last year and early this year. So basically over the last 7 to 8 months, they've lost a lot of key talents. Specifically, Taz, Vicky Guerrero, Kennedy, Umanga, JBL, Victoria, referee Jimmy Corderas.
McFoley,
very good point.
MAGA.
Right now, lots of rumors out there that there are some more people who may not indeed stay with WWE much
Ron
longer.
Mastrio.
One by his own admission, Batista. He says he doesn't expect to be doing this for more than another year. The Undertaker, clearly going to be retiring sometime in the next year or so. Shawn Michaels has been publicly stating that he wants more time at home and has been contemplating retirement for some time. The rumors of Jeff Hardy's contract status, contract which is set to expire in August of this year. Rey Mysterio with disagreements with the backstage and business end of WWE, and so many more. Now, the question, this past Monday night on the Pro Wrestling Report on 540 ESPN, we talked about who of those names I just went down could TNA or should TNA pick up. So without talking about that, is WWE really got a problem in their hands because they haven't built enough new talent to replace some of these departing talents?
Ready for that one-word answer I had?
Ready.
Desperation. WWE is throwing out all these different things. Remember about this time last year is when we had the McMahon's Millions.
$1 million giveaway?
Right. It's because, one, it's getting to be summer. Who stays inside to watch wrestling?
I do.
Okay, I DVR it. But next week, apparently I won't need to DVR it unless, you get John Cena on TV again. Or Vicky Guerrero, any of those kind of things that I just don't want to watch.
Well, Randy Orton, clearly the new World Wrestling Entertainment champion, and a good move by WWE. Again, the question, though, as I said, why did he even lose it in the first place?
Gives him more steam to get it again.
Well, but maybe it gives more steam for Batista's return. They knew he was injured when they went into that decision. He comes back now, and he can immediately hop back into the title hunt.
Sure.
Not like he didn't when he returned this last time. But
or the last few times because he's injury prone.
But what is WWE to do? They've got 3 brands that they've got a staff, if you will. They've got a lot of product out there. And here's the thing that I've noticed as of late. I was watching Raw's 15th anniversary special again on I still have it recorded, the actual broadcast the other day. And looking at, some of the old Starcades, the old pay-per-views, some of the old even weekly shows of Raw when you had The Rock and Steve Austin and the like. You had Triple H's big return in 2001. The bigger problem for WWE right now is the fans have stopped caring, meaning they're not as actively engaged in the product or the presentation as they were in recent history. That being because they don't have, as Al Snow told us back on February 9 of 2009, they don't have that emotional attachment to the brand. They don't have that emotional attachment.
Is that one of the 7 steps?
No, it was preceding the 7 deadly steps. They don't have the emotional attachment to the product. They don't care. They don't care if, as much as they did in the past, if something were to happen. Think back to the glory days of wrestling, when literally the fans at ringside would bring weapons and attempt to attack the wrestlers. And, we've seen a blurring of the lines of professional wrestling over the last several years, And you got a problem?
I'm just waiting for you to finish, man. Because if you're going to ask an opinion, you're telling the show.
I'm directing the show. As you notice, I've got the notes here. If I don't do it, who the hell will?
Right here.
The fans have stopped caring. They used to care so much, and a lot of that has been broken down by the media environment overall. Fans obviously a lot more knowledgeable about the product. Vince McMahon said back in 1997 that WWE was not going to insult fans' intelligence with good guy versus bad guy, blah, 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 blah. But the fans not caring, these key talents leaving or potentially on their way out, what does WWE do now, Meathead?
Okay, I'm ready now. I was building a thought, and then you answered the thought, and I was building a thought, and you answered a thought. They're trying anything. And again, it's desperation time for WWE. They're trying anything to get your attention. That emotional investment, as Al Snow said on February 9th, 2009.
That interview in its entirety available right now on iTunes. Just search for Pro Wrestling Report on ESPN Radio. Or click the subscribe link at pwrshow.com. You weren't going to say those two things. Carry on.
Anyway, the emotional investment is not there. Again, you know, you take like an ECW, when ECW was the real ECW. Again, fans did bring weapons to the matches. They brought your own weapons. Your local independent shows where they have the attachment. I think it's a lot to do with WWE being very callous, and not Don Callis, being very callous in their approach to the fans. They are insulting our intelligence once again by force-feeding us your John Cena's, your Batistas, your Triple H's, and just continually not giving us what we really truly as an IWC, and yes, we are a part of the IWC, as what we're really looking for. So they're trying any kind of gimmick, any kind of thing. I think it's desperation time, to be honest with you.
As I said, we talked this past Monday night about some of these talents that may be beneficial to TNA. WWE, if they lose a lot more of these key talents, are they forced then, if TNA does indeed pick some of them up, are they forced then to look a little harder at their own product? Will they be caught again with their pants down as they were in 1995, Labor Day 1995, when WCW Nitro went on the air from the Mall of America in Minneapolis?
They were caught with their pants down only because they thought Lex Luger had an agreement with them to still be on the show, and there Lex Luger is on WCW Monday Nitro.
And at the time, if you don't know, Lex Luger was the next Hulk Hogan in World Wrestling Entertainment.
At that point.
At that point, yes, indeed. They were pushing him to the moon to fill that role, fill that vacant role. But what was different then is that WWE continued to cater to who they thought were their fans with the gimmicks that were ridiculous at times, such as the Goon, Knuckleball Schwartz, Salvatore Sincere, blah, 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 blah. And Nitro had an edge. Raw clearly has more of an edge now, as does SmackDown and as does ECW at
Thanks
times.
to WCW.
No more or less of an edge than TNA has. So,
and in TNA, actually the fans for TNA do have an emotional attachment to the TNA product.
people like to root for the underdog, myself included, and obviously TNA viewed as the underdog in this equation, in this situation. So, Meathead, let's speculate. Jeff Hardy, will he stay with World Wrestling Entertainment? He recently said in an interview that he, in all likelihood, will re-sign with WWE.
I think he would stay.
Rey Mysterio. Lots of rumors out there, folks, and we're only reporting on it because it's so rampant, that Rey Mysterio was gone from WWE after Extreme Rules. You know, the first time he lost his mask, if you listen to the commentators on Friday Night SmackDown.
Which isn't the case, because he had been unmasked in WCW for about a minute.
About a minute. So I'm not one who subscribes to the fact that Rey Mysterio may leave. Yeah. But remember, last time when Rey Mysterio re-signed his 3-year deal with WWE about a year ago, he was heavily leaning towards not signing that because he wanted to go wrestle in Mexico. And WWE wanted a 5-year deal out of him, ended up getting a 3-year deal out of him. I believe there's a special clause with an annual year-to-year renewal that Rey Mysterio can back out if he chooses to do so. So, the chance is certainly there.
I need to channel Frank Cosentino right now. This is
Do we
where
need a Ouija board?
This is where Frank Cosentino would say the advantage is to the wrestler. Okay? In the negotiation process, sometimes the advantage is with the company, advantage is with the wrestler. Right now, with all these people coming up and the company kind of in a flux and in desperation mode, advantage wrestler. Rey Mysterio, the demographic that he reaches, especially being on SmackDown, unbelievable.
About 250,000 Hispanic viewers on SmackDown now with Rey Mysterio back, but the last time Rey Mysterio was on SmackDown, in case you don't remember,
he carried the brand.
He was moved to Raw for a little while. 2 million Hispanic viewers weekly on SmackDown. But again, I don't subscribe to Rey Mysterio.
And I didn't
WWE.
mean just the Latinos. I mean the children.
The Chillins.
The ones that he's just the same size as.
The Heartbreak Kid Shawn Michaels taking some time off as we speak.
Go ahead.
Do you see him win, actually? It's not a question of if, it's a question of when he would depart WWE. I don't think there's any chance he'd ever go to another organization, but it was 2002 when he returned part-time to WWE, but he's essentially been full-time ever since. That's 7 years ago rather.
When he came back,
Howard
won the
Ward-
belt with those doo-doo brown pants.
And a Great match at SummerSlam 2002, one of the
In
best
the
SummerSlams
Elimination
ever.
Chamber.
No, the Elimination Chamber Survivor Series 2002 close.
That's where he won the belt.
Yes,
He
it
came
was
back
the
against Triple H in a street
against
fight.
Triple H. But be that as it may, Shawn Michaels...
By the way, mark the time when you said be that as it may, because you've been waiting.
Be that as it may, Shawn Michaels, 7 years back in WWE after returning on a part-time basis, has said he wants to spend more time with his family. Your thoughts on when he might call it quits in the wrestling business?
Hopefully soon.
Why so?
I'm not entertained by him anymore. I've lost my smile for HBK.
And Mick Foley lost his smile too recently.
Mm.
Batista, again, he's publicly stated he doesn't see himself wrestling beyond a year. But again, retirements in wrestling are to be taken with a grain of salt. But Meathead, do you think?
Even the greatest retirement of all time has already been...
Well, he's not the general manager, as everyone's speculating, and everybody knew Ric Flair was going to be the general manager of Raw out in the IWC. That clearly not the case as the Donald Trump. I'm intrigued. Listen, it's new, it's different. You can't fault WWE for trying something different. I'm intrigued. Not intrigued enough to drive up to Green Bay for Raw Monday night, but I am intrigued as to where they go with this and how they do this. I think he's a transitional GM.
Absolutely a transitional GM. I wonder how that makes him feel as far as his sellability down the road. I said sellability.
The Undertaker.
Gotta
Just
go.
had surgery on his hip.
Wait, we're Undertaker haters.
No, I thought. But The Undertaker, clearly, he's in his mid-40s. He can go for a little while longer, but...
When it comes to a big match, man, he really puts it in there.
And really, that's almost as often as you see him. You don't see The Undertaker every week, even when he's healthy. They keep him a special event as they should, which is a good way to utilize him. But how much longer do you think he will be a regular role, or play a regular role in World Wrestling Entertainment?
For years, because again, they're using him the proper way, so he could stretch it out another 5-10 years.
Well, WWE's got a long way to go.
It's a long way to top if you want to rock and roll.
Is the product suffering right now due to some of these departures and releases? And rumor has it there might be more down the road, especially as it pertains to wellness policy violations. We don't have any intel on that, but...
This is right where the brand separation is hurting the product. Because you have to staff 3 different shows with top superstars that people care about. That's where the emotional investment is gone.
Mhm.
Because you don't have the top 10 talents on each show. You have 3 solid shows now. Again, the brands, splitting of the brands, that didn't make any sense to me as a wrestling fan. And in a business sense, it made perfect sense.
Let's go down to the PWR news desk. First news item is a tragic one, as Japan, one of the big Japan superstars in professional wrestling, Mitsuhara Misawa, passed away after a match this past weekend. He executed a suplex and was then not able to come back to, and it was determined that he had indeed suffered from cervical spinal damage and subsequently passed away. So our condolences obviously go out to all of the Japan wrestling community and his family. World Wrestling Entertainment is going to be releasing a SmackDown 10th Anniversary DVD. It's going to be coming out on September the 15th, right around SmackDown's 10th Anniversary and season premiere on My Network Television. Last week's ratings saw WWE Raw score a 3.6 rating, SmackDown a 1.9, TNA with a 1.1, ECW with a 1.2, and Superstars with a 0.9. Hulk Hogan's autobiography, My Life Outside the Ring, is scheduled to be released on October 27th. Should be an interesting read with all the personal traumas going on in his life right now. WWE will host a free concert with Rev Theory and Adelita's Way. Adelita's Way, the group that sings the current Superstars theme song. It's going to be before the Bash on July 28th outside the Arco Arena in Sacramento, California. Chris Jericho is set to host a new show on VH1. The show will be titled The 100 Most Shocking Moments in Rock, and it will air in the fall. TNA has announced that Hernandez has been cleared by his doctor to return to the ring. Hernandez suffered a neck injury a couple of months ago and had subsequent surgery to repair that neck. WWE is going to air a commercial-free Raw, as you learned this past Monday night on June 22nd, from Green Bay, Wisconsin's Resch Center. And that will be the first time ever that Raw has been broadcast commercial-free. Make sure you follow the Pro Wrestling Report on Twitter. We tweet.
Tweet-a-dee-dee-dee.
PWR Show, it's twitter.com/PWR Show. Follow the Pro Wrestling Report on Twitter. Get exclusive updates every time PWRShow.com is
Or
updated.
every time I take a bowel movement.
That is actually not going to be tweeted. You may tweet, but we won't.
It doesn't tweet. It goes, wah!
PWR Interactive Meathead. We've got some emails and comments from viewers all over the world. And let's start with Michael Barr, who says, last week you were talking about the last great heel turn, which got me thinking about some of the greatest of all time. 3 in my mind stand out. The first is Shawn Michaels turning on Marty Jannetty. Obviously, that was the great barbershop spot where Jannetty was thrown through the plate glass window. Not tempered. Plate
glass window.
The second being The Rock joining the corporation at the 1998 Survivor Series. And what made that turn special was the whole angle leading up to it. To me, it was the greatest storyline in wrestling because you never saw it coming. I was at that event at the Kiel Center at the time in St. Louis, Missouri. And that was actually a great show. Remember, it was Shane counting 1, 2 fingers to Austin, and then Austin being chased out. Then coming back
who else
later,
came out during that tournament?
Foley. Gilbert.
Nope.
Dwayne Gills.
He was. But you know who I'm really leaning
This
towards?
superstar is one of the greatest superstars.
That's when he pulled his glasses
Yeah.
down. But I'm talking about, he's a man, such a man, he's a real.
Going on from what Michael Barr had to say in an email to comments at pwrshow.com. And the third, which to me was the most intriguing, was Hulk Hogan joining the NWO. The previous 5 years of WCW were so uninteresting to me that I only watched it when I had nothing else to do. But when Hogan turned heel after being the biggest baby face in the last decade, I started watching it religiously again until it went under in 2001.
It's actually 2001. There's no and in it. Meathead right.
The year
Meathead
2001.
wrong. There is no and.
In your...
No, in the
There
correct. No, in the correct pronunciation.
Don't you dare sit there and attempt to
will.
correct my
I
pronunciations. I'm a broadcast journalist.
But you're also an idiot because there is no
Aaron
and.
Proctor says you are right about branding.
Proctor?
WWE's. You're born an idiot, you'll always be an idiot. Please, was that 4?
All of them.
Citizens on Patrol?
It was 2.
This is a Pro
3.
Wrestling Report. Aaron Proctor says you were right about the branding of WWE shows and how each show should have a different identity. Think of Law and Order. Each brand of that franchise is different, yet all under the Law and Order umbrella. I should be able to tell the difference between Raw and SmackDown and ECW.
I saw that in the shout box over at pwrshow.com, and I actually agreed as well.
Case in point, as I
Proctor.
made on the site as well, is I watch Law and Order SVU fairly religiously. Can't stand Criminal Intent, and I don't like the new Law and Order. Why? Because just like in the first story we were talking about, the stars are no longer there.
I don't watch any of them. When you start doing all these
I'm not
initials,
asking you for throwing it. Oh, Criminal Intent, Special Victims Unit, and the original Law and Order are the ones that are out there today.
Which one is Richard Belzer on?
He is on SVU.
Is Ice-T on there too?
SVU.
Okay.
See, that's the one you watch as well. Thank you very much for that email. David goes on to say, I think it's stupid, reference WWE Superstars, which we were talking about last week right here on this very program. I think it's stupid and has no point like Heat. But ECW is their Heat, so what's the point of having Superstars? Some good things happen on Heat, guys. Let's not forget.
Back in the day,
it was on USA. Remember McMahon calling, and I bring this up more often than I should probably, calling The Undertaker and Kane 2 putrid wussies, but he didn't use wussy.
Yeah.
Brett Jackson.
Heat was a great show right before pay-per-view because you got live pay-per-view interaction.
Brett Jackson says, multiple title changes equal good pay-per-views? For example, No Way Out, Backlash, and now Extreme Rules are viewed as good pay-per-views. What are your thoughts?
My thoughts are, just because they change belts, every other pay-per-view doesn't make them good pay-per-views. Even though Damien is kind of marked out for that, actually the 3 times it's happened, it said, I was surprised by the title changes, but I don't know if it necessarily means that it was a good pay-per-view.
Well, something happened.
Right.
You're
right.
It doesn't have to be title changes, but something of
You're
note
right.
happened.
Well, I mean,
on
you
those
could
shows.
go to Extreme Rules and talk about that abortion of a match between Santina.
She's Miss WrestleMania. Grant Campbell says, after watching SmackDown this Friday night, do you think Edge will turn face and Punk will
No.
become heel?
No.
Speaking of SmackDown this Friday night, a bit of a different look for SmackDown.
Again, I
filming
figured it
or
was
shooting
film.
in film mode.
I figured it was film, but a very irky-jerky.
Gareth Lloyd says, I've been a fan of your show for a while now and can say it's one of the highlights of the week. Thank you for that.
You need to get a better week.
My question is, how do you think it would go down to have a tag team of Rikishi and Umaga in WWE as a dominant tag team kind of thing, or even perhaps adding Manu to the mix as well? Mattering not where they are now, but...
You're talking about Rikishi Prime and Umaga Prime?
Hmm?
It'd be okay.
They're all Samoan.
It'd be okay. You lump all the Samoans together? Is that what you're talking about?
No. This is from our YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/MaxSports, or just click on the YouTube channel link at pwrshow.com. User Popmanbox says, TNA equals WCW, which is a bad thing because they will go down Chinatown as fast as Jackie Chan.
What?
User Stan Powder says, how about the next time you talk about thoughts on Batista's supposed injury now that it's a roid test season? I wouldn't be surprised if the company is hiding Batista from being tested and using his injury as an excuse, especially now the rumors are claiming his arm isn't as hurt as bad as it was assumed. Vince is one creepy man who is ruining the health of individuals just for the pockets of his peers and himself. Plus, Batista obviously still looks like a juice mutant.
Are you a big fan of Oliver Stone?
EHWFCAW says, okay, correct me if I'm wrong, but hasn't Jeff Hardy failed the wellness test twice? If that is true, then why wasn't he released like Umaga and Masters? Well, Umaga, we learned, refused to go to rehab and thus caused his release from the company. And finally, VKDUPW says,
I'm telling you, I just want to get some alphabet soup.
Damian Wrong, Meathead Right. TNA 6 Sides of Steel. The camera slots in the cage are more than big enough for someone to slip in an item for someone to use. If you think back to April's pay-per-view lockdown, we had an attempted escape through one of those slots, and if a man can fit half his body through, then Meathead is 100% right. Actually, it would be 50% right. You can't fit an entire wrestler through those holes in those cages.
Which
I've
wrestler?
seen it this close.
Which wrestler?
Hornswoggle might fit, but he's in
Okay, but he's a wrestler. But he's a wrestler.
Don't you dare play
So-
semantics with me.
No.
Shut up!
I apologize to the producer who had to work the audio board there because of Big Mouth.
Let's go now to Beat the Meat.
Time for Beat the Meat. Measuring Stick had made a comment on PWR Primetime site and answered our Beat the Meat trivia question correctly. He says, Tommy Dreamer won the ECW title from Taz in 2000. Taz dropped the title to Dreamer because he had just signed with WWE, but then lost it on the same night to Just Incredible. So now he is a two-time ECW champion. Congratulations going out to the Measuring Stick. You have won Beat the Meat. Hopefully you get to play the home game with a bottle of anywho. This week's Beat the Meat is WrestleMania 23, Detroit, Michigan. It was a match of the billionaires. Vince versus Donald. Real easy. Who did Vince have in his corner, and who did Donald have in his? Comments at pwrshow.com. That's this week's Beat the Meat.
TNA Slammiversary, Meathead, is this Sunday night live on pay-per-view. It's the 7th installment of Slammiversary. A lot of historic things have happened at Slammiversary, such as Larry Zbyszko becoming TNA management in 2005, Jim Cornette coming in 2006. King of the Mountain match, obviously the staple of this show. Let's run down the card and talk about what we think might happen coming up this Sunday. Firstly, it's Daniels versus Shane Douglas.
Bye, Shane. See ya.
Angelina Love versus Tara, formerly Victoria of WWE for the Knockouts Championship. I am a huge fan of My Pie Sexy.
That's odd because we didn't think you were a fan of My Pie at all.
Well, you don't have a pie.
My Pie, the girls. This guy.
Your thoughts on the match?
Your winner and still champion.
Angelina Love?
Yep.
Sting will take on the Blueprint Matt Morgan. If Matt Morgan wins, he gets a spot in the main event Mafia.
No, because you can't win a spot in a group by winning a match. That's stupid. It's like on.
It could be like his
It's like
initiation.
on. It's like on Raw when they said tonight somebody's going to join the NWO and they don't even know who it is.
Abyss will team with Taylor Wilde to take on Raven and Daphne.
Daphne. Oh, ho, ho, ho. I like a Daphne.
Finally, Beer Money gets their chance against Team 3D for the Tag Team Championships.
Which
of Total
ones?
Non-Stop Action Wrestling.
Okay, thank you. Beer money.
Really? You think they go over and win the belts? They
Yeah.
almost gotta.
Yeah. Beer!
Money! Suicide, Jay Lethal, Consequences, Creed, Alex Shelley, and Chris Sabin. King of the Mountain X Division Championship matchup. Suicide currently holding the title.
Alex Kelly.
We mean no ill will to any of our mentally challenged viewers out there.
Whoa. Whoa, what was that?
Right.
You never go full retard.
Your thoughts on the
I
match?
told you, Alex Shelley, new champion.
The main event is the King of the Mountain match, the signature match from TNA Slammiversary. The contestants, the contenders are as follows. Mick Foley, the current TNA World Heavyweight Champion, who, if he wins this match, will defend the belt once a year. Jeff Jarrett, AJ Styles, Samoa Joe, and Kurt Angle, who will walk out of that match the new TNA champion, because I think it is a given.
I think it's Kurt Angle.
I think it's AJ Styles.
Yeah, it's not a given for AJ Styles to win the belt.
I didn't say it was a given that he would win. I said I think it's AJ, but it's a given somebody will win.
Yeah. No, it's Kurt Angle.
Somebody gonna get the ass whooped.
It's Kurt Angle, so that way Samoa Joe goes to Kurt Angle and takes on his Nation of Violence.
The clock is ticking on Taz, though.
Yep.
That is TNA Slammiversary coming up this Sunday on pay-per-view from Detroit, Michigan. Actually, the Palace of Auburn Hills, Michigan, a huge arena. It seats 23,000 people, which might be why TNA is offering tickets for a very low price. Go to TNAWrestling.com to find out all the information on that. Meathead, speaking of big shows, this past
Really big show.
Sunday at PWRshow.com, the PWR Fantasy Draft continued. As you saw the first fantasy pay-per-view of my organization, which
is still not named.
Correct, it's not. And that is available for your comments at PWRshow.com coming up July 5th. This one will try to top that show.
Well, on that note, I actually have 2 announcements. Are you ready?
No, because I haven't plugged enough of my pay-per-view yet.
Well, you're already...
2 of my mystery picks were revealed from the supplemental
Okay,
draft.
go.
The tag team champions are Beer Money with their manager James E. Cornette, who is also the manager of who may be the new ladies world champion, Angelina Love.
Okay, that's fine. Are you done?
Whooping your ass? No.
No.
Got 11 more months.
First off, just like in fantasy baseball, football, whatever, due to injury, I have placed Batista on...
Frank's not here, so I'm not sure what you're trying.
Due to injury, I've placed Batista on waivers, and he has been dropped.
Which sets the precedent. Somebody else gets injured, you better do the same thing with them.
Absolutely.
You won't.
In turn, I have
Harley?
picked up Daphne. Okay? Not a big deal, but you know what? Since she came back and stopped being Sarah Palin and let
The
her
governor.
let her hoo-hoos. Let her hoo-hoo show, and she's got her inner freak coming out again.
She
Loving
drinks
it.
chocolate milk?
I have one more announcement to make as well. And is my gimmick around? Where's my gimmick? It's not around here. Harley.
Again, as you go
Harley.
to the top of the program, you'll see who's prepared and who's
Harley. Anyway. It wasn't really correct in keeping Kennedy as the GM.
not. After all the fighting you did
It
right here in this very room.
didn't make sense. It didn't make sense. So
Sums up
not only have
92%
I
of what you said.
cut Mr. Kennedy, I've eliminated the position of GM.
What? Are you selling your brand?
I've eliminated a position and I've created a new one. It's called Sheriff.
Active.
Welcome to WCW. Welcome to WCW.
Don't you dare.
What?
No, he's
What?
not active.
Stone Cold
Look,
Steve
I'm
Austin
not going to argue
is
with
the
you.
new
We did
sheriff
that Monday night.
of
I'm not gonna argue with you.
WCW. What?
Why Frank allowed that is beyond me because he is not on the active roster of
But
any
he's still
organization.
he
But
is
again,
still
I
on an active.
proved this
If
past
you go to
Sunday, I proved
WWE.com,
alumni.
if you go to
Alumni.
WWE.com,
And
you
I
will see
proved
him
this
listed
past weekend that
as
my
one of the
show is
superstars.
superior This is the Pro Wrestling Report Primetime.
Failure
Thank you
turtle.
so much for tuning in. And make sure you subscribe to PWR on Twitter. And right now on iTunes, an exclusive shoot interview with Al Snow, one you don't want to miss. Use the subscribe link at pwrshow.com.
What?
Call me Dad in the Cause. This is Damian Nelson saying thank you for tuning in to the Pro Wrestling Report Primetime.
PWRshow.com. Log on and win cash.